The restaurant was buzzing that night, a Friday evening when every table seemed to be full. The smell of seared meat and roasted garlic floated through the air, and waiters weaved in and out of the crowded dining room like dancers in a well-rehearsed performance. At one corner table, dressed in an immaculate navy suit, sat a man whose face had graced the covers of business magazines. His name was Richard Sterling, billionaire CEO of a tech empire that had reshaped the way people lived, worked, and dreamed. Richard was the kind of man who rarely blended into a crowd. People whispered when he walked in. He wasn't just rich, he carried an aura of power, the kind that made people stand taller or shrink back, depending on who they were. Tonight, he wanted one thing, a perfectly cooked steak and a quiet meal after a week of relentless boardroom battles. But fate had other plans. When the waitress approached his table, he noticed her right away. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with deep brown skin and tired eyes that tried to hide behind a practiced smile. Her name tag read Maya. "Good evening, sir. Can I start you with something to drink?" she asked, her voice steady though her hands trembled slightly as she held her notepad. "Scotch," Richard replied without looking up from his phone. "And bring me your best steak. Medium rare." "Yes, sir," Maya answered softly before stepping away. To Richard, it was routine, just another dinner. But to Maya, every table meant something different. She wasn't just working for tips, she was working to survive. Every dollar she made went to paying rent for the tiny apartment she shared with her younger brother. Every shift was a battle against exhaustion, because after long nights at the restaurant, she studied nursing textbooks until her eyes burned. When she returned with his drink, she hesitated for a moment, noticing the lines on his face, the weariness that wealth couldn't erase. Something inside her stirred. She had seen many wealthy men sit at this table, but tonight felt different. She set the glass down gently. "Your steak will be right out, sir." Richard nodded, barely acknowledging her. He was already scrolling through emails, drowning in numbers and deals. But as Maya turned to leave, her heart tugged. She didn't know why, but she slipped a folded napkin onto the edge of his plate. She walked away quickly, before she could change her mind. Richard didn't notice at first. It wasn't until the steak arrived, a perfectly seared ribeye, glistening under the low restaurant lights, that he saw the napkin still folded neatly. Curious, he opened it. The words inside were written in hurried pen strokes. "Please, don't eat alone tonight. Sometimes money hides the emptiness. Someone cares, don't forget that." Richard froze. For the first time in years, his appetite vanished. The fork slipped from his hand, clattering against the plate. His chest tightened, as if the note had reached into the part of him he had spent decades burying under success. Because the truth was, he was alone. His ex-wife had left years ago, his son barely spoke to him, and every victory in the boardroom felt hollow once he returned to his penthouse, where silence echoed louder than applause. He looked up, searching for Maya across the crowded floor. Their eyes met briefly, and in that moment, something shifted. Challenges that shaped them. Richard Sterling was not always a billionaire. He had grown up in a broken home, working odd jobs to put himself through college. He built his empire brick by brick, but in his rise to power, he had sacrificed relationships, neglected his family, and learned to measure worth only in profit margins. What he gained in wealth, he lost in connection. Maya, on the other hand, knew struggle intimately. Their stories couldn't have been more different on paper, yet their struggles were mirrors of each other. Her parents had both passed away within a year of each other, leaving her with the responsibility of caring for her younger brother, Jamal, who dreamed of becoming an artist. She was strong, but every day felt like pushing a boulder uphill. When Richard called her back to the table, Maya's heart raced. She thought he might fire her, complain to her boss, or worse. "Did you write this?" he asked, holding up the napkin. She swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. I'm sorry if I overstepped." But instead of anger, his expression softened, almost fragile. "Why would you write this to me?" Maya hesitated, then spoke honestly. "Because sometimes the people who look like they have everything, are the ones hurting the most. I don't know why, but I felt like you needed to hear it." For the first time in years, Richard felt seen. Not as a billionaire. Not as a CEO. But as a man. A connection that changed everything. That night didn't end with Richard storming out or leaving an extravagant tip as some might expect. Instead, it ended with conversation. He asked her about her life, and she told him. About her parents, about Jamal, about her dream of becoming a nurse. And he listened, really listened. Over the next few weeks, Richard found reasons to return to that restaurant. At first, it was just curiosity. Then it became something else. He began to look forward to their conversations, to the way Maya spoke with honesty and strength, to the way she reminded him of values he had long forgotten. But it wasn't easy. Richard's board of directors questioned his distraction. The press speculated when they noticed him dining at a small, unremarkable restaurant rather than luxury venues. And Maya, too, faced whispers from coworkers who assumed she was chasing money. Yet through it all, they built something rare and unlikely: friendship grounded in truth. The turning point. One evening, after a grueling day, Richard arrived at the restaurant looking more worn than usual. His company was facing a lawsuit, his investors were restless, and he felt the crushing weight of failure looming. He confessed to Maya that he was thinking of stepping down, retreating into the loneliness he knew too well. But Maya looked him in the eyes and said, "You can't run from pain, Richard. You have to face it. You've been given power, don't waste it hiding. Use it to build something that actually matters." Her words stopped him cold, just like that note had weeks earlier. For the first time, Richard realized that wealth meant nothing without purpose. Resolution. With Maya's encouragement, Richard shifted the direction of his company. He launched a scholarship fund for underprivileged students, including Jamal, whose artwork later gained recognition. He invested in community health programs, inspired by Maya's dream of nursing. And slowly, he began repairing his relationship with his son, reaching out with humility rather than pride. As for Maya, she finished nursing school with Richard quietly covering her tuition, not as charity, but as a partnership, because she had given him something far more valuable than money: perspective, compassion, and hope. The inspiring message. Sometimes, the smallest act of courage, like slipping a note across a dinner plate, can change the course of a life. Richard Sterling discovered that wealth without connection is emptiness, and Maya learned that her voice mattered, even to the most powerful of men. Their story reminds us that behind every face, rich or poor, is a soul craving understanding. And sometimes, kindness doesn't just touch lives, it saves them.